Welcome everyone. We're ready to begin our meeting. I want to thank everyone for attending tonight's commission meeting. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to announce the meeting and call the roll.
Roll call. Markley. Walters. Philbrook. Walker.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
McKiernan.
Here.
Mugia. Maddox. Kane. Holland.
Here. This evening, the invocation is being given by Sister Therese Bangard of Our Lady in St. Rose Catholic Church. I invite you to stand and to remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'd like to just give a short context for my prayer this evening. Sister Helen, with whom I shared a workplace at Duchesne Clinic, which is just 1 block from here, I shared a workplace with her for 12 years, died on June 3rd. Her illness seemed short to us. The responses to her death from the patients she served have been powerful. Yesterday, a patient named Daryl had just learned of her death. His responses: she was so kind. Didn't just say things, she walked the talk. And he added, I know that in heaven, she's got some pretty wings. Sister Helen was not an exceptional person, but she was a person who cared about this community. She cared about the people in this community, and she always found time for her prayer and her God. So let us pray. Loving God, I pray for these leaders this evening. I pray that they will keep their hearts open to you and that their words, decisions, and actions will promote kindness in this community. I pray that their deeds will match their words, that they will walk the talk. I thank you for all the Sister Helens in this community, those persons who fill hearts with kindness. And together, let us remember, God, that you abound in kindness toward us. I pray that kindness will abound in the many places our global family experiences war. I pray that kindness will abound in our state and in our beloved Wyandotte community. I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sister Therese, for being here this evening and for your prayer. Ms. Cobbins, are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. A blue sheet has been distributed. Under the non-planning agenda, item number 2, we have a revised resolution authorizing the Second Amendment to the development agreement with the Kansas Entertainment, LLC.
Thank you. I will now ask the clerk to read the statement governing the Planning and Zoning meeting, and followed by the items on the Planning and Zoning consent agenda.
We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor Mark Holland, Commissioner Hal Walker at Large District 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Brian McKiernan, District 2, Commissioner Ann Mugia, District 3, is unable to be here, Commissioner Terrence Maddox, District 4, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Angela Markley, District 6, Commissioner Jim Walters, District 7, and Commissioner Jane Philbrook, District 8. As each petition is called this evening, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before this commission, the commission has 3 options. Number 1, it can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. Number 2, it can override the Planning Commission's recommendation, but it would take 8 votes to override. And number 3, it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration, together with the statement specifying the reasons for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the Planning and Zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote or recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set aside an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or staff, then the Planning Commission's recommendation on all items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask if there is anyone who requests to set aside an item from the consent agenda. This is your time to stand up and request that an item be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If an item is set aside, the matter will be discussed and voted upon separately. All items not set aside will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance of those people here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone with a cell phone to please turn them off or switch to non-audio so you will not disturb the meeting. Once the petitioners make their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 5 minutes to state your views. As you come to the microphone, please state your name and address for the record. The mayor and the commission are required to disclose contacts with proponents or opponents on any item on the planning and zoning agenda. I will ask if any member of the commission wish to disclose any contact with proponents or opponents on any item on the consent agenda.
Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to disclose that I have had contacts by proponents of the following special use permit applications. Special use permit application 2014-13, Mr. Jeffrey Hollenshed. Special permit 2014-24 from the Oak Grove Neighborhood Association. Special permit application 2014-26, Ms. Lottie J. Martin. And special permit application 2014-38 from Mr. Jose M. Solis.
Thank you. Commissioner McKiernan.
I've had contact with proponents of A1, number 3069.
All right. Let the record show I see no further disclosures from any of the commissioners. At this time, I would ask if anyone would like to remove any items from the consent agenda. Oh, you got to read them all first. I'm sorry.
I will
Getting ahead
now
of
read
myself.
the items on the consent agenda. Changes on application item number 1, 3069 Dennis Edwards. Change of zone from R1B Single Family District to TND Traditional Neighborhood Design District for the continuation of a corner grocery store with living quarters above at 81 North Mill Street. Recommended for approval. Item 2, number 3072 Chong Bong. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to AG Agricultural District for an accessory building to house a farm equipment, etc. at 101 South 76th Street. Recommended for approval. Item 3, number 3073 Curtis Peterson. Change of zone from MP2 Planned General Industrial District to MP2 Planned General Industrial District to request a revision to previously approved stipulations at 240 South 65th Street. Recommended for approval. Special use permit applications, item number 1, SP 2014-11, John Peterson with Leon Howe. Special use permit for a dirt field at 3222 North 38th Street. Recommended for approval for 1 year. Item 2, SP 2014-13, Jeffrey Hollenshed. Special use permit for retail sales, barber shop, and small grocery at 2001 North 5th Street. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 3, SP 2014-18, Esther Reed. Special use permit for the temporary use of land to park a dump truck at 1610 North 51st Street. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 4, SP 2014-23, Keith Orr. Special use permit for 3 horses at 1713 and 1715 South 94th Street. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 5, SP 2014-24, Oak Grove Neighborhood Association, Inc., renewal of a special use permit for a farmer's market at 419, 421, 425, 427, and 433 Haskell Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 6, SP 2013-26, Lottie J. Martin, special use permit for a daycare at 2706 North 18th Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 7, SP 2013-31, Advanced Stores Company, renewal of a special use permit for a parking lot for Advanced Auto at 21 South 18th Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 8, SP 2014-36, Brad Willits, renewal of a special use permit for a youth athletic training facility at 7120 Gibbs Road, recommended for approval for 10 years. Item 9, SP 2014-38, Jose M. Solis, special use permit for 2 horses, 1 female goat, and 10 chickens at 3614 Sorter Drive, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 10, SP 2014-39, Bridget Shell, renewal of a special use permit for a kennel for 5 dogs at 2605 South 73rd Street, recommended for approval for 10 years. Item 11, SP 2014-40, Filiberto Arrola, special use permit for 2 horses at 331 South 72nd Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 12, SP 2014-41, Linda Siemens, renewal of a special use permit for temporary use of land for storage trailers and a cooler for the Farm Training Program and Community Garden at 1900 North 1st Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 13, SP 2014-42, William K. Harris Sr., renewal of a special use permit for a trucking business at 8819 Knoll Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. 14, SP 2014-44, Regina Compernoli, renewal of a special use permit for a kennel for 4 dogs at 41401 George Drive, recommended for approval for 10 years. Item 15, SP 2014-46, Dr. Kelly Mather, USD 500, special use permit for an outdoor operated activity field at 1415 North 57th Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 16, SP 2014-47, Jeffrey W. Glassbrenner, special use permit for a hair salon at 7700 Richland Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. Plan review applications, Item 1, PR 2014-13, Dr. Kelly Mather, USD 500, preliminary and final plan review for a bus station at 1602 North 57th Terrace, recommended for approval. Item 2, PR 2014-15, Dr. Kelly Mather, USD 500, preliminary plan review for a stadium at 1602 North 57th Terrace, recommended for approval. And Item 3, PR 2014-17, Doug Ubin, preliminary and final plan review for a McDonald's fast food restaurant with drive-through at 4217 Rainbow Boulevard, recommended for approval. Those are all items on the consent agenda.
I would like to add personally some disclosures as well. As I was reviewing this, I've had contact with proponents of A3, number 3073. I've had contact with proponents of SP 2014-46 and PR 2014-13 and 2014-15. Those are all my disclosures. At this time, I would ask if anyone would like to remove any item from the consent agenda. Either a commissioner or someone in the public, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and name the item you would like set aside.
Good evening, Mayor. Kurt Peterson with the Polson Law Firm, 6201 College Boulevard, Overland Park, Kansas, here on behalf of J.E. Dunn, speaking to item 3 under change of zone applications. We would just request, Mayor, as we're still working with staff, trying to really maximize the use of this site, we think there's something that, as we'll work with even staff tomorrow, we really need to go back to Planning Commission. So we'd ask for this body to remand us back to the next Planning Commission, which will be in July. And then we hope to see you at the Planning and Zoning meeting at the end of July.
Okay, we will move this off of the consent agenda and address it individually.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other items that anyone would like to remove at this time?
My name is Sterl Holland, and
I like
I
your
just
name, ma'am.
know the procedure, just to call out the name of the,
Yes, if there's an item number that you'd like.
okay, it's item number SP 2014-46, special use permit for an outdoor operated activity field.
Okay. That item will be set aside.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Mr. Mayor, if that item is pulled, there are associated items that also should come off the agenda, as they're all related. So,
Would we need to do C1 and 2 or just C2?
I-
Presumably just C2, yes?
that's the only one related to the special use permit, yes.
Okay. So we'll pull off C2 as well, 2014-15. Any others?
Move for approval for all remaining items on the consent agenda.
Second.
I let the record show I see no one else moving forward to remove an item. The motion and second are properly before us. Roll call on the motion.
Roll call. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
The motion carries 8-0.
All right, that brings us to item A3, 3073. The applicant has requested that it be sent back. Mr. Richardson, how would you prefer us to handle that? Do you want us to vote to send it back, or are they just withdrawing it?
No, you would need to vote to send it back.
Move to send it back and get all items worked out with the Rob
Second.
staff.
Will we need to have a public hearing to send it back?
There will be another public hearing at Planning Commission, so unless the city attorney objects, I think we can do that. And there'll be another hearing before you as well.
Do you want a hearing now? Okay.
Good.
All right, so we now have that item before us. It's been moved and seconded to be sent back. Seeing no further comment, roll call.
Roll call. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 8-0. That motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. That brings us to the item B15, SP 2014-46. I'd ask Ms. Holland to come to the microphone and state your concerns about this item.
I just needed some reassurances. I had talked with the gentleman right here, and he had given me a lot of information about the project, which is the Slagle Stadium. But I just needed to be reassured that there will be fencing and security around the property. And I might add that my family has 5 acres right behind, a 5-acre lot right behind the property. So that's why I'm concerned.
Okay?
Okay? Second of all, the drainage issue. There was a project that was done next door which had some real big difficulties with drainage into the creek and into the street. So I just needed to make sure that the drainage issue is taken care of. And I have been told that there would be no more drainage that would run into the creek than there is at the present time. So I just needed to confirm that. And also, with the use of land, if land has to be used from our property, that the trees would be replaced and that the property would be pretty much renewed like it was before. if there's a need to use the land.
Okay,
So those are my concerns.
all right, thank you very much. I will ask, is the applicant here that would like to make some statements in regard to those concerns?
Brad Oliver, 7111 West 151st Street, number 321, Overland Park, Kansas. I got a contact from Ms. Holland yesterday, I believe. She expressed those concerns. I responded to her in the following fashion. There will be a fence all the way around controlling people from the stadium and the district area going into her property. That's number one. Number two, we had a similar issue with the stormwater with Miss Vicki Owens during the planning process. She actually spoke in front of the planning department, and we reassured her that the laws of the EPA and the unified government have changed a lot in the 8 to 10 years that was built, and there's a lot of precautions that are taken to prevent. There was a lot of complaint, I believe, Ms. Holland, for dirt, clay, and all the washout that occurred during the church that won't happen during our project. The third issue that she brought up was being on her property. We're building very close to her property. I explained to her that if we have to use her property, we'll come to her and get an easement, and there'll be compensation for that. So we're just trying to get a contractor on board to know exactly how much, and then we'll work with her to get to satisfaction.
Did the staff have any concerns about the issues that were raised by Ms. Holland?
Mr. Oliver addressed them as I would have.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Walker.
I guess the only question would be whether Mr. Heatherman, did he review the plans?
Yes,
The
they've
drainage
been,
issue?
these plans have been reviewed and approved by Public Works.
So Public Works is satisfied with the drainage of this, I mean, it's easy to say everything's going to be fine until it's not, and then we've got to deal with it. So, in your professional opinion, the drainage is not going to be a problem?
The drainage is approved. I'll never give anyone a guarantee that there aren't problems. There could be problems there now, but the drainage meets the criteria and standards of the unified government.
And I would say that Mr. Oliver has given the neighbors his cell phone number, so if a silt fence does break and that needs to be repaired and he doesn't notice it, that they can contact him. So I don't remember the lady's name, but she was at Planning Commission. He exchanged information with her so that the neighbors can be in contact throughout the process if there are any issues that arise. So hopefully it'll be handled between them and between Mr. Oliver and the school district and the neighbors, and not involve us if there are any minor issues that occur.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you. I noticed that it's labeled on the page as a stadium. I just wanted to know what was from you, Rob, if you could tell us what the purpose of the facility is exactly for.
Okay, there's two parts of the facility. One is a bus barn because they've received funding for additional Head Start funding for next school year, and this will be where those buses park on the north end of the site. And then on the south end, this will be the stadium and track for Schlegel High School. And so it'll be all football and track activities, I believe soccer activities, with the exception of the throwing sports. So the javelin and shot put and discus will be done off-site.
Okay, do you know when it'll be finished?
I'd refer to Mr. Oliver for the finish date.
All right.
The bus facility we're trying to get done by February of 15, and the athletic field by June of 15, yes.
Thank you. I just want to know because I'm excited. I'm a stallion. I went to Schlegel. I like that. I just wanted those questions. Had those questions.
Thank you. Well, I would also say the school district has been doing quite a bit of construction, new schools, beautiful new schools for our kids, new facilities for our kids. And we've done a lot of plan reviews for them, and they have been good stewards. And so I think the school district has a good reputation, particularly recently in the last 3 to 5 years with the number of new facilities that they've built. And so I think that's a good, that gives me confidence also moving forward with this, ma'am, that your property will be cared for. and not damaged in this process. So,
Move for approval with the stipulations that the lady brought up.
Second.
I do need a public hearing to see if anyone else would like to speak for or against it. So to that respect, I'll ask, is there anyone in attendance tonight who would like to speak in favor of this project? If so, please come forward at this time. Let the record show that someone is coming forward.
My name is Marcia Rupp. I live at 2816 North 46th Street. Don't live far from there. And my daughter went to Schlegel some time ago, and so I think this is a good thing. But has anybody contacted the addition that is around there that is this going to be right near the addition that is, forget what that addition's called.
Escalade Heights. Yes, I can speak to that. The applicant worked very closely with the new owner of Escalade Heights, CHWC. They've actually worked out some mutual grading and landscaping and screening efforts there. This is actually would have been phase 2 or 3 of Escalade Heights where this property sits. So this is actually replacing part of that subdivision.
Have they contacted the neighbors that live?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone
And
within
they're-
200 feet of the property boundary has been contacted.
Okay, thank you.
Multiple times.
Thank you.
Okay. Let the record show I see no one else moving forward to speak in favor. Is anyone interested in speaking in opposition to this project? Please come forward at this time. I see no one coming
Move for
forward.
approval with the stipulations and the concerns that Ms. Holland had.
Second.
All right, now my question for legal is, can we take the 2014-46 and 2014-15 together as they are the same item? One is a plan review and one is the special use permit. Okay, so it can encompass both. Does the mover and second agree to that? To encompass both items at the same time? Okay, they have agreed. Seeing no further comments, roll call.
Roll call. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 8-0. That motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. Before we move on, I do want to recognize another elected official here from the Kansas City, Kansas Community College Board of Trustees. Ms. Marianne Flunder is here. Thank you for being here, Ms. Flunder. A regular attendee, your attendance record will be noted for your extra credit. Thank you. I don't know what you can cash that in for, but it is noted. Planning and zoning non-consent agenda. Item number 1 is a special use permit from Terry Mason for a group home for youth 12 to 17 years old. Is there someone here to make presentation on this item?
I believe Mr. Mason is here.
Again, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Gerald Payne, address 7703 Everett Avenue.
Terry Mason, 8220 Harris Court, Raytown, Missouri, 64133.
Go ahead.
Okay, as I stated, my name is Gerald Payne. I am the clinical director for Pride Group Home. Terry Mason is the executive director.
Sir, I'm having difficulty hearing you. Could you project a little bit for us?
I'm sorry. Pride Group Home will be a group home serving a population of SED youth who are abused, abandoned wards of the state. These are SINC children, which stands for Children in Need of Care. These are non-adjudicated youth who are a part of the foster care system. The goals of the group home are to prevent children from ending up in shelters, to prepare them to be able to live in a home, be it a foster home, relative, or adoptive home with a family. We are wanting to open this group home because, and as a foster parent myself, I'm directly aware of this need. There are many children who need to have an opportunity to prepare to live in a family setting. So the shortage of group homes here in the city has resulted in many children who would be in a group home being placed in foster homes, and those foster care placements are disrupting. And so you end up having young people who are ending up in 10, 12, 15 different foster homes. This is not good for them psychologically or emotionally. So our goal is to provide a home family type setting, but with the level and structure of a group home. Okay. The other goal is to prevent children from ending up in shelters, because oftentimes when the placement agency is having trouble securing a foster care placement, the children have to reside in shelters. So this would be an opportunity to have fewer and fewer children ending up in shelters. Another goal of the program is preventing youth from succumbing to deviant criminal elements and assisting them with becoming healthy, productive citizens. As I stated before, these are non-adjudicated youth. They are not a part of the juvenile probation system. But as we are all aware, there are many youth who go from, being sink children in need of care, to being children who are in the Department of Corrections. So our goal would be preventative, to prevent these young people from ending up a part of the juvenile justice system. Okay, the mission statement is to provide individualized skills to cope with everyday life with basic education, job skills, cultural enlightenment, and financial responsibility to transition adolescents into productive adults.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, I will open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone who would like to speak in favor of this project to please come forward at this time. I don't see anyone coming forward at this time. If anyone would like to speak in opposition to this project, I'd like to ask you to come forward at this time and speak. Please state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Mayor, before the opponents speak,
Go ahead.
I need to disclose, I did get two telephone calls over a period of time in opposition to this from people who live in the vicinity. It just occurred to me it was the same.
I understand. So we will update the record for that disclosure. Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Thank you.
Bill Rogers, 7362 Yecker Avenue. I work for Argentine Neighborhood Development Association, and one of our goals in the community is to listen to the community. When we have issues in our community, we don't try to decide what is best. We listen to the people. I got a call from a lady that lives in the neighborhood, so I went up and visited with her, and she went out, heard about this home, group home. So she went and started talking to her neighbors. She did a petition, and then she was told that it wasn't, I guess, correct, or something along those lines. It's what is stated here in the planning. So I have that with me. Yeah, it says here, petition is not a valid petition. So I don't know what it takes to be a valid petition, whatnot. She has her names, addresses on it. So I don't know where we come with that. Our concern is, one, that we have people that live right there in that community on that street within those few blocks that are very concerned and do not want this in the neighborhood. Argentine has been very successful listening to the community, and that's what we plan to continue to do. I was just reading through this a little bit. One of my concerns here when we talk about this would be number 3 on the planning and land use document that I have here, and I just got this. But the suitability of property for the use in which has been restricted, it says the group home may detrimentally affect nearby property. And then number 7, it says the proposed use is not reasonably necessary for the convenience and welfare of the public. The proposed use may injure the marketability of adjoining property. I know that this property's had several code violations on it over the last few years. I spoke to Tina at the codes today. It has an open codes violation on it right now. I went out and looked at the property. It's not in the best of shape. So we've been fighting very hard against code problems in that area. I would like to ask that if this does go through, that we bring it up to snuff, raise that level for them. My next concern is this a business or is this a 501c3? Is it a not-for-profit? It's a business, so it's a for-profit. I think that when these kind of group homes come into the neighborhood, a lot of times they play on your feelings. They want to tell you that they care, and they probably do care. There's a great need in the community. I do not disagree with that. But at the end of the day, this is a business. This is for a for-profit business. Basically, I would ask that you listen to the community, the people that live there. I do not know where these folks live, if they live in our community, but we would ask that you listen to the community. Argentine has been very successful when we listen to the community. So with that, I'd ask that you, Commission, vote no on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition tonight? Okay, let the record show no one else is moving forward. I would ask the staff, can you address the protest petition that was presented?
They presented a petition with several names on it to the Planning Commission. It was distributed to them, but it wasn't, the protest petitions can't be filed until after the Planning Commission meeting and within 14 days of that meeting. The lady was told about those guidelines, but they never came to our office or the clerk's office to file that.
Okay, so after the meeting, they were given the opportunity and they did not file it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to hear more about what the reason was that the neighbors who brought the petition were in opposition to it. In the materials we were provided, there was some discussion about children who already lived there, which didn't seem to me to be this particular applicant's problem. So I wanted to hear more from you about
Right.
that.
I understand what you're asking. There's a concern in the community.
Sir, just 1 second. I would ask, I'm going to direct that question directly to the staff, because were you at the meeting when they presented that petition?
I was not. I just got
Okay.
in on either. This one of my concerns.
Well,
Mayor,
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to ask that question to be directed to the staff at this time. So thank you very much for
thank
that.
you.
Go ahead.
There was concern about the nature of the group home itself, and there was concern about other families in that neighborhood that have what were characterized as multiple families living in one home without very much supervision of the children, police calls, and other issues in that particular neighborhood in that area. And as a result of that testimony, we have notified the codes department to look into those other homes in that general area for the code complaints that were noted in the record that you've read, Commissioner.
One other question, Mr. Mayor. What is the anticipated length of stay of the children and the ages of the children if the purpose is to get them accustomed to a home environment? How transitory will they be?
Mr. Mayor, could the applicant answer that question?
Yes.
The length of stay, can you hear me? The length of stay is never no more than 6 months. Like, sometimes there are rare cases where they're 1 year, but the state is very strict when it comes to them being in group homes. They want them to actually be in a home. That's the whole goal, to get them prepared to go in a home. So it's normally no more than 6 months, if that, because they're very, like I said, it's a money issue. So they don't want them to really be in group homes. So we have a strict regimen with the kids so we can prepare them to live in homes, because they're coming from many various difficult situations. So to get them prepared to live, we have teaching parents that are specially trained to work with these type of kids to get them prepared. So the length of stay would be 6 months, usually, but the most a year.
Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to say this. I don't believe in feuds and battles and all of that kind of stuff. In my first 3 years in office, I've seen these various cases come forward, be it PACES, be it whatever groups. And I've seen different people come from the community and say, well, this is an issue or this might be an issue. And I've still seen us approve those individuals. The thing about this permit, it's a 2-year permit. If they don't hold up their end of the stick, if they're unruly, if the house is unfit, then after 2 years, we have the opportunity to not renew it. Again, I support it. I've said in meetings, in commission meetings where we spoke about homeless children who have to be in a shelter in Johnson County and get a cab to school every morning. And I think we need more homes like this. We need more facilities like this that will house homeless children and give them a family setting so they can grow up like normal people. And I thank you guys for putting things together for young people so they'll have a home and family setting. And thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing as no one else has come forward. I don't see any other commissioners wishing to speak on this matter. Is there a motion?
I move that we accept as presented.
Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded to accept the application. I would ask legal, what is the number of votes required for passage?
6 to pass it.
6 to pass it because it's been approved by the commission.
The Planning Commission.
Planning
has.
Commission has pre-approved it. Okay, so we have a motion and a second before us. Seeing no further discussion, roll call.
Roll call. Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook,
Aye.
Walker,
No.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Maddox,
Aye.
Kane. Kane is no. The vote is 6-0. That motion carries.
6 to
2, sorry. That motion carries.
Okay, it has been approved. Thank you. That brings us to the second item on the non-consent agenda. That is master plan application. Mr. Heatherman from UG Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a presentation on the aesthetics and design urban guidelines for the Lewis and Clark Viaduct. Many of you have attended meetings and are aware of this project. This has been a project as a whole that we've been cooperating with KDOT on studies and implementation since 2010. There's probably been over 5+ public and stakeholder type meetings over the course of that 3 years. One of the agreements we reached with KDOT was to focus on aesthetics and open space as part of their design of the Lewis and Clark Viaduct. It was in order for us to accept it as in conformance with the spirit of the master plan. One key aspect of the project, which you can see up here, is that ultimately it will make a much gentler sweep of I-70 as you come west out of Kansas City, Missouri, or head east into Kansas City, Missouri. That phase won't come until maybe many decades from now. But it was important to get a common sense of the vision and the aesthetics now so that the pieces that are built now can be part of a whole. The part in red, which is called Phase 1, that's actually under design, and as long as T-Works funding holds out, would be under construction by 2017. And these guidelines would influence the design of that structure as well. The next slide gives you a feel for what the improved Lewis and Clark Viaduct would look like. It builds on what was called the urban industrial theme. There were several themes developed through Charette. The urban industrial theme builds in on some of the Art Deco and 1920s, 30s type architectural elements that's very typical of this area and into the Fairfax district. It fit very nicely with the entire look of the bridges as they will appear from multiple vantage points. The next image kind of gives a sense of how a broader context would be of the bridges once all the phases are completed. And then the last slide, one of the discussions we had is to what extent lighting might be incorporated into the Lewis and Clark Viaduct. We don't need to make that decision today. We will do some modest things to kind of keep that option open, but the real impact of any lighting, if it were selected, wouldn't come until phase 2 and 3, which may be decades away. So there's no need to rush that decision. If lighting were incorporated, it would have quite a dramatic effect, and this slide was intended to give a sense of that. And it would also involve a commitment by the city for the long-term ownership and maintenance. And since we have no idea what lighting technology will even be 15 to 20 years from now, we've simply left it in the guidelines as an option that would be decided by a future planning commission and council. So we accept these urban guidelines as prepared. I'm prepared to answer any questions. We only had 2 stipulations, one on the lighting, and another is we asked that certain language related to financial arrangements between KDOT and the unified government be deleted, because this is really just a planning document, and those guidelines are being worked out separately as part of the city-state agreements with each project as they come through. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Remind me, because it's a couple years out before it would even get started, bringing this forward tonight just so we can see the concept is important because they're going to the design now. Is that right?
That's right. The actual phase 1 construction project is at the point in design where they would like to know for sure that we have pinned down these aesthetic things so that they can design their plans accordingly.
I don't know if any of you have attended any of the charrettes or the meetings that they've had. KDOT's been very active in getting input from the community about this interchange. It's an enormously expensive undertaking, but this is, what would you estimate phase 1 cost would be?
If I recall correctly, phase 1 was on the order of $50 million total. All 3, well, actually it's more than 3 phases. The entire interchange project in the end would be projected around $200 million in current dollars.
And how much of that would be local?
There's no local contribution, and in fact, KDOT did commit to a base level of funding necessary to bring this kind of aesthetic vision up, which is a contribution they don't normally simply offer up. They made an agreement to fund these aesthetics up to 4% of the cost of the bridge structures themselves. So not 4% of the total project, but 4% of the investment in the total bridge they're putting towards the aesthetics fund, if you will. And we have every reason to believe at this point that that's enough to implement the vision as shown.
I would note, Mr. Mayor, that this is a result of the 2008 downtown master plan that was adopted, where we specified in the master plan that that bridge should be changed so that the curve on the bridge was more in keeping with current design standards, and this was a follow-through on that master plan item from 2008.
Yeah, and that curve on that bridge is dangerous. I mean, we all know, you can see there's black marks up and down the concrete from when cars hit it, a lot of accidents and calls for service in that. But I would say I'm delighted that KDOT's planning on spending $200 million transitioning this very important interchange, and that they've sought and received a lot of our input. So I want to thank Mr. Heatherman. I know you've been integrally involved in this. I know Mr. Roddy has as well. I just want to thank our team, Mr. Richardson as well, for the work you've put into it to make sure that this investment looks great for our community moving forward. So where this is just a presentation at this point, do we need to adopt this plan?
Yes, it is a request for a master plan amendment to make it formal and official.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Roll call. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 8-0. That motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Heatherman. That brings us to our non-planning agenda. We have 2 items on that. Item number 1 is a public hearing and ordinance resolution for the Public Levy Redevelopment District. Mr. Richardson, are you leading this one off? Okay. Mr. Bach?
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. Tonight we are excited to move forward with further advancement of the redevelopment of the public levy site. As you all recall, this is a project area we started working on some time ago. We had entered into an initial contract with IRG for this area. They have found that a successful transition of this to go over to North Point, who has done several successful projects and continue to do those in our community. Tonight, I'm going to turn this over to George Brakovich, our Economic Development Director, to begin the presentation for this.
Thank you, Mr. Bach. Can we hold off the Adobe update until after the meeting?
Sounds good to me, Mayor. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. George Brakovich with Economic Development. Brent Miles with North Point representing the developers here as well. If you'll bear with us, we have a very brief presentation to kind of outline what we're trying to do tonight and what the project is. So just as a quick reminder, we are here because it's a TIF project that requires actually 2 public hearings, one to consider the amended TIF district, and then the other to consider the TIF plan that's being proposed for one of the project areas within the TIF. If at the end of that you conduct it and you see fit, we're also looking to pass 2 ordinances, then one that accepts the amended TIF district and the other that accepts the TIF project plan and the development agreement. There's also one other item related to the use of IRBs here. It's not a tax abatement issue. It's simply for a sales tax exemption on the construction materials. So moving into the presentation, the current site layout. For those of you that aren't familiar with the site, it's at the confluence of the Kansas and Missouri rivers. It is bound by Fairfax Traffic Way and Lady Baltimore Building on the north end and Caw Point Park on the south end. The entire project area on the original, bear with me here, on the original TIF district, we actually just established one large district. You'll see it includes Fairfax Traffic Way right-of-way as well as levee, wall issues, all the way up to the property boundary. As Mr. Bach mentioned, the plan with IRG was to really advance in the demolition of what we call buildings A, B, C, and D in cold storage through a timed or sequence timeline that would allow them to build these 3 smaller new industrial buildings. The proposal to amend the TIF district then, basically it's the same outline except we added a little nodule on the other side of Fairfax Traffic Way. You'll see that there's a conveyor belt that runs across the entire length of the property, actually crosses over Fairfax and dumps into this on the other side of the street. And we actually need to take that conveyor out as part of the project. So we wanted to make sure we captured that. But really what it does is it divides that one large TIF district into 3 project areas. One on the south end that incorporates Caw Point Park, and then actually project area 1, which is roughly the 25 acres that we're going to talk about a project plan to redevelop tonight, and then Lady Baltimore is its own. In terms of the deal structure, it is a TIF project. We are not seeking any sort of bonding on this. It's a pay-as-you-go TIF. It is expected to run a full 20-year term. However, within the project itself, it's roughly a little over $21 million total capital investment. There is a cap on the TIF proceeds at $9.85 million, and it's still subject to a 50-50 test, meaning that the public participation in the project won't ever go over a 50% rate. So in case you can do the math. If $9.85 million is going to be over 50%, that cap is actually reduced. The LMW provisions, North Point has continued. You've seen their faces a lot here. They've done projects all over the community, and they never shy away from local minority women business enterprises having a share of the project. This proposal is no different. They actually have goals for both construction of the project as well as professional services. Prevailing wage provisions, although the state had changed the law and it's not a tool or not something we ask for in our deals anymore. This is actually an assignment of the original agreement we had with IRG, which was structured before the law changed. We asked North Point to still participate in that. The slide doesn't show it here, but actually, even though the incentive is capped at $9.8 million, they have agreed to do a minimum of $3 million worth of improvements and by paying prevailing wage. Relocation of the existing tenants. There's been some we've had between buildings A, B, C, D, and actually building E, we've had a lot of tenants there that have been there for a long time, and some that haven't been there as quite as long, but there's been concerns of how do we relocate those folks. We really made a strong push to keep those businesses in Wyandotte County, and I know Greg Kendall's here with Viaduct, and they've played a big part in that. And then the last piece is ground lease payments. So this is a property that we can't ever sell. We structured a ground lease deal with IRG that reduced the ground lease payment as they did demo of the existing buildings. In year 2014, that total payment's $300,000. Starting and IRG will pay that, and then starting in 2015 through 2025, it's a little bit reduced, but it's a combination between the ground lease that we'll have with North Point as well as the amended ground lease with IRG. And we don't have, the ground lease isn't part of your consideration package tonight. We're trying to do some last minute editing on those, but expect to see those in early July. And then Brent, I don't know if you want to come up and kind of roll through some of the slides to talk about what your project is.
Okay. Hi, Brent Miles with North Point Development. I'll probably just talk a little bit more from a high level of what the building is, what I believe it means for Fairfax, and kind of why we're interested in this site. Obviously, George has hit on the TIF provisions and the development agreement. Of course, those are obviously important to us. They're important to you. Looking from a higher picture, this is a building that currently does not exist in Wyandotte County, meaning you lack Class A modern industrial buildings. They don't exist in your community. The closest thing that you would have would be the Wilhite portfolio down in Armourdale. Mr. Wilhite does a fabulous job. I would call him his building product, and he knows this, an A- product in our market. This is an A+ building. This will be a concrete tilt, 32-foot clear height. It doesn't exist. The reason that we like this site, everybody knows, KDOT's only doing this big bridge improvement because we're building this building, but it has superior.
I'd like to see the documentation on that, please.
We just twisted their arm, and it's just horrible. But again, great central location. What is Fairfax? Great central location. It's a proven industrial market, great access to 70, and obviously from there. So we think that it really fits as a good core distribution building. And secondly, it's close to GM. We pride ourselves in winning GM deals. We've won 4 in Riverside over the last 3 years. The reason that we haven't won in Wyandotte County is because there's lack of available space and lack of available buildings. This helps solve that supplier issue that we've struggled with in this community for a very long time. No one's been willing to build a spec building. This is a speculative building. I don't have a tenant in mind. This is $21 million coming out of North Point on the hope that we're going to fill it, and we know we're going to fill it. We're 100% leased with the same product type in Riverside, so it's now time to give a nice Kansas solution. And of course, being in Wyandotte County is beneficial to you in doing that. A couple of points that George hit on. This is a land lease with you, so you're entering into a long-term contract with us. Obviously, the TIF plan is 20 years, so this is a long-term partnership. LMW, if I told the standing committee, and I'd share with you, we've exceeded our goals by a lot. I know our professional participation on Central Industrial Park, for example, is 144% local minority women. So that's a combined goal. That is, I don't think anybody else is even coming close to that in this community. One key component that was brought up very early from the mayor's office through planning and as well as Friends of the Caw is new access to the park. We all know that Caw Point Park is a hidden gem. No one can get to it. It's convoluted how you get there. This will provide all new access into the park, which I know that Friends of the Caw, they spoke at the standing committee in favor of the project. We're also actually insetting a Lewis and Clark mural in the south elevation of our building, 25 feet tall, painted, and so that'll be really visible from the new viaduct. I think it'll be a really cool little accent that we put into it, and Friends of the Caw have been really supportive working with us. Tenant relocation, we have 22 total tenants, of which 6 get to stay on site because they're in Building E. We've been working with Greg and Jay over at the EDC on tenant relocation, trying to give those folks a home in Wyandotte County. The conversations are always tough. You've been here for a long time. It's time to now take the next step for your business and move. But overall, I would grade Greg and Jay's performance as an A. They've worked really hard, detailed, make sure that one of us touch those tenants at least once a week, finding out what's going on with them. And so far, so good in terms of tenant relocation. I think we've resolved all issues with tenant relocation issues that have come up during this process. We would plan on, as George mentioned, trying to get to the July 10th meeting for the land lease. We would close on July 30th. On August 1st, our crusher will be delivered on site, and we will begin crushing buildings as fast as we can crush them. We would start with building A, then B, C in the cold storage, D comes last, and it'll take me about 160 to 180 days to get all that crushing done on site. We're actually recycling all that material and placing it in these buildings have basements, so we're actually placing that on site. And then, of course, starting a building in January, we'll have to see how snow holds. It could be a March start for us. Even with a March start, we can deliver a 342 to 365,000 square foot building in calendar year 15. It will be ready for tenants in 15. And of course, we'll be out marketing it. We'll obviously work with prospects that you all have, and we'll be out. Of course, our goal is to fill this building just as soon as possible with the highest paying tenants we can. In general, I would say we'd be very lucky if we had one big tenant that takes it. I don't think that will be what happens. I think it'll be 2 to 3 tenants. In the similar product that we build around the metro, we average 1 employee per 1,000 square feet of building. It's almost right on the dot on every building that we have. And so given this building being 342,000 square feet, you'll probably see 340 to 400 employees on site, which would be a really nice boost for the Fairfax district. So here's a rendering. You can't tell a whole lot. This is kind of the architectural plan, but this is our product that we build in Riverside. This is a photo that I took. This will look almost exactly like the product that we build in Riverside. Not your typical industrial building. I just wanted to include this. Velocity is one of our tenants. They do GPS units for yellow freight. This is the interior space of that industrial building. That's Velocity's internal space. So what you think as industrial isn't what we build. These are folks who say, I'm here for some strategic reason, location to GM, central location, and they invest large amounts of money on their interior finishes. And so we've projected it at $21 million. That doesn't include any equipment or anything for our tenants that I think will come. This ultimately could be a $60 to $100 million, redevelopment project.
Terrific. All right, any questions from the commission? Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No questions, but I wanted to go on the record to say that I sincerely appreciate the efforts of Mr. Brakovich, North Point, particularly Mr. Miles' efforts to address the concern that I had with the way tenant relocation was going to be handled. And as he said, looks like things have been dealt with to the satisfaction of all of the ones that I know about. And I appreciate that, we work this to ground. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, I don't see any other commissioner comments. Mr. Walker.
I have a question for Mr. Miles.
Yes.
I've been watching.
Can you please turn on your microphone and direct it directly in? Thank you, sir.
I've been watching with interest what's been going on in Riverside for quite some time, and very nice buildings over there. How many more buildings and how much of that land do you control?
We control, today we control 400 acres-ish, maybe closer to 500 acres with options.
Do you control west of Horizons Parkway?
We control 100 acres west, and the city still controls 200 acres on the west side. The city is unsure what they want to do with that remaining 200 acres. there's a differing opinion between the council, I will say, in do they want it to be industrial or office. And so half our park is industrial now and half is office. And the line that separates north from south, the north is industrial, the south is office. There's some who see the buildings being built and see the jobs created and say, we would prefer industrial, and there's some that prefer office. And because we have so many acres left with them, we have an agreement to take down land until 2035 at a set price with them. We're basically building what is infrastructured now, and haven't really focused on the remaining kind of 200 acres and what will become of it. But all told, it could be a 8 to 10 million square foot industrial park in Riverside.
Do you suppose, and it's assuming a lot of unknowns, that if land were made available in Wyandotte County, a similar project could be done over here? Or would it compete besides this building down in Fairfax?
Yes.
Thank
Yes. And as diesel fuel rises, I would only emphasize that yes even more. I think that it's a derivative of the cost of diesel fuel and the cost of logistics.
So are you recommending that we do something about developing an industrial park and office space?
I would be more than interested in I would be more than interested in partnering
I'd
with
be
you.
more than very much interested in partnering with you. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Townsend, do you have another question?
Not another one. Just want to amend my previous statement to include my appreciation to Mr. Jason Banks from your office and Administrator Doug Bob.
Thank you. Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a landscaping question. I seen on the picture where the grain elevators are right in the back. And I just wanted to know, are those grain elevators being used? And then, Doug, I wanted to ask, is there a comprehensive plan for us to tear down those grain elevators at some point, and will it conflict? Or
The grain elevators are being used.
Okay.
They are actually under a lease that we have, and I don't know the time period, it probably extends out about 30 years with the Bartlett Company. So they are active elevators in business and operating.
Okay.
And so at this time, we have no plans to do anything other than continue that.
All right. I don't see any other questions from the commission. We do need to open a public hearing. We need 2 public hearings. I've understood from legal previously that we can hold those concurrently. And so we're going to hold a public hearing for the amended TIF district as well as for the redevelopment project plan for project area 1. Is that correct? So I would now open that public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to speak in favor of this project, please come forward at this time. Let the record show I see no one coming forward. If there's anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this project, please come forward at this time. Sir, you're welcome to come forward.
Hi, my name's Ed Waldman, 5721 West 84th Terrace, Overland Park. I'm a tenant at the Levy district at this moment. I have a couple issues on the tenant relocation, and also kind of a question on what exactly is economic development. A little less than a year ago,
Sir, for the sake of the folks at home, can you pull the microphone in front so they can hear on camera?
A little less than a year ago, I had gone to this Levy district looking for property at that point in time. A representative of IRG had explained to me and Austin Bayer, who was the real estate agent for CBRE, the real estate company handling that they did have plans to tear this building down and build this new construction. But I was also told to my face that I was assured of 3 years. This is now just 8-9 months ago, possibly 5 years because of how they were going to phase in the demolition and construction at that point. So I signed a lease, a 3-year lease. On that 3-year lease, I stipulated quite a bit of infrastructure I was going to be putting into the space to create a growing business that was expecting to hire more people and possibly be its own boon one day to the economy. Before I even got my last nail in, I was already hearing about rumors of being evicted, things of that nature. Also, at that same point where I was signing my lease, IRG was in the final phases of making this deal with North Point. They were not renewing anybody else's leases at this point, so they knew they couldn't even honor anybody else's leases, yet they chose to sell me a lease on this property on there. I've put in tens and tens of thousands of dollars into infrastructure, into this business at this point in time. The business is growing. I'm looking to add employees, but I'm not doing that now. I'm looking for another space. As far as being contacted even by North Point, I have had one call. Nobody's done anything, I should say, about any relocation anywhere in Wyandotte County or any place else for me. I was presented with a compensation number that in quite reality was about a fourth of the money that I've already invested into this at this point in time. I'm not a lawyer, but this seems a bit fraudulent, signing somebody to a 3-year lease and mere months, 2 or 3 months later, already having a plan that is going to go and evict me at that point in time on there. I was hoping to contribute tax money revenue to your city. At this point in time, there's no spaces available for me to even continue that at this point here. I'm really being placed into an extremely precarious position to where literally the existence of my business is being put into question.
You have 1 minute, sir.
Okay. I think I've covered most of the points on there. I just think that what's been stated has not been done, at least in my case, and any type of compensation necessary for what I've done to try and contribute to this community has not been addressed at all. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this proposal?
I'm not, Mary Ann Flunder, 1236 Grandview Boulevard. I'm not for or against. I want to understand the 144% local that, did you say 44%, Brent? Of them, how many are Black and Mexican Americans, you know? Or are they all women?
I don't have Central Industrial Park's breakdown of the combined goal, but I can.
But you're saying you reached, it was 144% of your goal. Is that right?
What was your goal then?
I believe a combined goal of 30%.
Can you get that to me?
Absolutely. We have a breakdown. We report it to the Unified Government on a monthly basis.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else like to speak in opposition to this proposal? Seeing no one else moving forward for or against, I will now close the public hearing. And Commissioner Kane.
Could you two guys stand up one more time? The prevailing wage thing, George,
Yes.
they're going to live up to the prevailing wage.
Yes.
Okay. Brent, can you say that for the record?
Have a lot of money riding on living up to the prevailing wage. Therefore, I will do the prevailing wage.
Okay, could you say it louder?
I think
Yes.
we got it on record, I think.
Move for approval.
Okay,
Second.
we need 3 actions. And so I'm going to ask legal to walk us through the first action necessary. I do have a question from Commissioner McKiernan.
Yes, please. I just want to confirm that given the efforts that the successful efforts that we've had so far, working with current tenants on relocation, that we can make sure that representatives of Wyandotte Economic Development and/or North Point and/or both, please reach out to this gentleman as quickly as possible, engage him in a discussion so that we can keep that track record of successfully relocating. Thank you.
All right. So I will ask legal in terms of the order. Approved ordinance, we need to first amend the TIF district?
Yes.
Okay, so the first motion is to amend the TIF district,
Yes.
and does the second agree?
Yes.
That motion is properly before us. Seeing no questions, roll call.
Roll call. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
King.
Aye.
The vote is 8-0. That motion carries.
The next item is a redevelopment project plan for Project Area 1 and development agreement.
Move for approval.
Second.
Seeing no comment, roll call.
Roll call. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
King.
Aye.
The vote is 8-0. That motion carries.
The next item is to adopt a resolution of intent for $15 million in IRBs.
Move for approval.
Second.
I want to ask before we vote on that, just for confirmation, there's not general obligation backing on those bonds, is that correct?
These are just sales tax IRBs for the construction, so no, sir.
Thank you. Roll call.
Roll call. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
King.
Aye.
The vote is 8-0. That motion carries.
All right, that concludes this item. Thank you all for your participation. That brings us to our final item tonight. This is the blue sheet, and this is the resolution with Kansas Entertainment. Mr. Bach, I'll ask you to lead this off.
Thank you, Mayor. And the original item was in your packet. This is the one that's an extension off the standing committee item when we originally brought forward to work on the convention center project. We discussed the need at the standing committee that we would have to offer Hollywood Casino an extension on the time frame needed to build their hotel based on the fact that if we're going to do a convention center, we're going to consider a convention center in the area, potentially. It could be in the site of the casino, and if that is the site, then they would need time to build from that, or design from that perspective. So in keeping with that, I'd noted that it would bring forward an amendment to their contract, which essentially offers them 100 days, and I think it's very well clarified in the blue sheet submitted by Ms. Boding for tonight, but essentially offers them 100 days from whenever we notify them that it's now time to go forward. Essentially, if you look at where we're at today, they're about 100 days out from the October time frame. So if we move through the process and we take 30 days and then say, we're not going on your site, go forward, then they have 100 days to get it done from there. We anticipated, that we would take around 90 days. We have gone out for RFP. We've received proposals back, and we're evaluating those down at this time. But we're still in that time frame that we'll move forward. So this just is in keeping with what I'd originally told the standing committee and how it would be fair to that group should we elect to go forward with it on their site.
All right, any questions?
Move to approve the revised resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Commissioner Kane.
All right, so we're the ones that's pushing it back a little bit, not them.
Correct. Right.
So it's the unified government, not the casino, because that's going to be an issue. Because some of the folks are saying that the casino's dragging their feet, and this time it's not them, it's us.
Right.
It's not dragging our feet, we're just getting, we're gathering information.
Right. We're gathering information for the potential location of a convention center, which could be next to the casino, or it could be somewhere else. And if we determine that the casino is the best place for something like this, then if they had proceeded and moved down the road and already were ready to start construction on the hotel, they would have to scrap all those plans and investment they'd made.
And I would say they have been enormous, and I think we need to get the word out to the public. They've been enormously cooperative with us taking the initiative to look into a convention center generally. And so I think they've been a willing partner in this and in this conversation. So yes, it is a request by the commission for them to delay their program until we fully evaluate a convention opportunity, if there is one. And if we say, yes, there is one, they're going to have, and it's going to be at that site, they're going to have to go back to design, and we'll have a whole other development in front of us. But that can be a good thing. So, but Mr. Kane, I appreciate your clarification because that question is out there. All right, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you. And the question I had was similar in nature to Commissioner Kane's inquiry. If it's decided that the convention center is best near the casino, is this in some way putting before the hotelier that they don't have to build the hotel or the casinos if the determination comes back that the convention center is best placed where they're looking at building the hotel now? Where does that leave that project?
Okay, they still maintain a commitment that they must build their hotel. So that is in play. If we came back, or the results came back that said the best place for the convention center was next to the casino, then the process there would be the identification of the amount of rooms, which will be part of our study as well. So how many rooms have to be dedicated? They're building a 250 room hotel. If it's a large convention center and it comes back and states you have to have 250 dedicated rooms to such a convention center, the casino would have a certain percentage of their rooms that's got to be dedicated to the casino to be of benefit to that. So that would be either an evaluation then at that point where we'd see whether there's a second hotel next to that site or an expanded larger hotel which they would build. And then of course where you locate it, is it built is it the casino, the convention center, and the hotel? Are they connected in that format, or is the hotel built in the middle? So at the point we'd come back, and if that's the conclusion which is reached for the location, we will have to come back before the governing body and have some discussion on that point. But I guess number one thing is they are not relieved at all from their obligation to build the hotel as originally contemplated. This would be additional hotel space that would probably come in connection with the convention center.
All right. The proposal is before us. It has been moved and seconded. Seeing no more comments, roll call.
Roll call. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 8-0. That motion carries.
That concludes our business down here. I will accept a motion to go back into executive session upstairs for labor negotiations for 20 minutes.
So moved. Or seconded, either one.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned.